Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a really legendary lineage within a specific sporting community. We're talking about the Boudreaux Eli bloodline.
Exactly. We've got some article excerpts here that, trace its history, talk about the key dogs, and really show the kind of impact this line had.
Yeah, the impact seems huge. So the material you shared, it's kind of like a roadmap for this family tree, right?
That's a good way to put it. Our mission here is to, untangle some of these key breedings, try to understand what made the line so famous, trait-wise, and, see how that legacy is still playing out.
Sounds good. I expect we might uncover some surprising connections along the way.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
There are always interesting links when you look closely at these things.
Okay, so where do we start? The origin, right. Floyd B. and the foundation dog, Eli.
Precisely. Eli is where it all kicks off, bred by Floyd B. And the sources really stress that Eli's pedigree was heavily based on Floyd B's favorite dog, Blind Billy.
Blind Billy, okay. And Eli himself, he had a record.
He did. Eli was a 2XW. So for anyone listening who might not know, XW usually means a two-time winner in their specific type of sporting match.
Got it. 2 wins. Okay. And then came a breeding that sounds like it was a real game changer.
Oh, definitely. The breeding of Eli to Mr. B's Spook, that's highlighted as, a truly pivotal moment.
Pivotal? Why was that?
Well, what's interesting is that Spook also traced back to Blind Billy, so you're concentrating that bloodline even further.
Okay. Doubling down.
Exactly. And the sources flat out state this breeding was to change the sporting community forever. That's a massive statement.
Change it forever. Wow. Okay, so who were the big names that came out of that specific history-making cross? Eli and Spook's offspring.
Yeah, the articles point to 3 really famous ones, Eli Jr., Bullyson, and a female named Brendy.
Eli Jr., Bullyson, and Brendy. Okay, let's maybe start with Eli Jr.'s line.
Sounds good. Eli Jr. himself was a fantastic dog, also a 2XW like his sire, but his real legacy, it's as a sire. He fathered Grand Champion Art.
Grand Champion Art. Okay, yeah. GRCH means Grand Champion, right? Higher level.
Right, and Art's record was incredible, a 7XW. 7 wins. He's actually called one of the greatest dogs of all time in these sources.
7 wins. Yeah, that's astonishing. One of the greatest. That says it all. But there's a downside to Art's story, something tragic.
Yeah, unfortunately, the sources mention he was stolen and just never recovered.
Oh, that's awful, especially for a dog like that with that record and, potential.
It really is terrible. And you see that potential because even before he was stolen, Art had already produced enough quality game dogs to earn ROM status.
ROM, what's that stand for?
Register of Merit. It's a title for dogs who produce a certain number of champions or grand champions themselves. So even with his time cut short, he proved he could pass on those winning traits.
Wow. So Register of Merit even before being stolen. It makes you think, what more could have come from him?
Absolutely. A huge loss, potentially.
Were there any other notable dogs from that close family, like littermates to Art?
Yes, actually. Art had a litter brother, Champion Hurt. Hurt was a 3XW, described as exceptionally talented.
Yeah.
And the sources also bring up another famous Eli-bred dog, Grand Champion Nigerino, a 5XW.
Okay, Nigerino. What's special about him?
Well, he's pointed out as representing some of the purest Eli Jr. blood you could find, and his line became a highly respected bloodline itself.
Purest Eli Jr. blood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so his line really carried the specific traits forward strongly.
Seems that way, yeah. Consistent quality.
Okay, let's switch over to Bullyson then. Eli Jr.'s brother. What's his story?
Right, Bullyson, his record was 2XW, 1XL. So 2 wins and 1 loss.
1 loss.
Yeah. And like Eli Jr., he was also a really significant producer, a great sire.
And I think I read his only loss was to his own son. Is that right?
That's what the sources say. Lost to his son, Benny Bob.
Huh. That's quite the story.
It is. And then there's another layer. Benny Bob apparently later lost to a dog named Jimmy Boots in what they call a classic match. These individual contests really become part of the whole lineage history.
Yeah, you can see how the narrative builds. And Bullyson, as a producer, he had some really famous offspring, right?
Oh, absolutely. Probably his most famous is Champion Honeybunch,
a
5XW. And she holds the title, get this, the all-time leading ROM bitch.
Her all-time leading ROM bitch. Wow. Okay, so ROM means she produced great dogs, but leading means more than any other female.
Exactly. The sheer number and quality of titled offspring she produced was just phenomenal. Monumental impact from her.
That's incredible. And did Honeybunch herself produce any other key dogs? Keep the line going.
She sure did. Honeybunch produced the 4XW Champion Jeep.
Jeep! Another big name.
Huge. Jeep ranks as the #1 ROM dog to this day. #1 male producer.
Number one, ahead of everyone else.
According to these sources, yes. They even say he deserves his own story, which tells you how influential his offspring were. To be the top Rom dog, that's immense genetic influence.
Wow. Okay. Bullyson, Honeybunch, Jeep. Any other notable Bullyson kids mentioned?
Yeah, they mentioned Loposay's Buster, who was also Rom, and the ever-so-famous Midnight Cowboy, names that people involved in this would definitely recognize.
Right. So we've got Eli Jr.'s line, Bullyson's line. What about their sister, Brendy? How does she fit into this dynasty?
Brendy's key contribution, as highlighted here, came from a breeding back to her brother, Eli Jr.
Breeding brother to sister. Okay.
Yeah, that pairing produced P. Carver's Black Shine.
Black Shine and Shine's offspring. Were they significant?
Extremely. Black Shine produced Champion Rascal, legendary dog. His record was 8XW, 1SL.
8 wins. 8. That's unbelievable. Almost unheard of.
Phenomenal gameness and ability, clearly. Shine also produced Rascal's brother, Oso Negro, and another one called world-famous P. Carver's Stompanato.
Rascal with 8 wins, did he also contribute through breeding?
Definitely. One really important breeding mentioned is Rascal bred to Honeybunch.
Ah, so bringing together the lines from Eli Jr. through Rascal's Dam, Shine, who is Eli Jr. Brendy, and Bullyson through Honeybunch.
Exactly. Combining those two powerful branches, that cross produced Polly, a 3XW.
And Polly, did she follow the pattern?
She did. Polly was bred to champion Beau Rom. Beau was actually Jeep's father, a 6XW, 1XL himself.
Okay, so breeding Polly to Jeep's sire, Beau.
Right. And that specific pairing resulted in the great Grand Champion Outlaw, a 7XW.
Another 7-time winner. You can really see how they're weaving these lines together generation after generation, concentrating the traits.
Precisely. Strategic breeding in action.
So speaking of traits,
Yeah.
what were the defining characteristics? What made Eli dogs, Eli dogs?
The sources are pretty clear. They were known for being powerfully built dogs with devastating mouths.
Devastating mouths. That refers to their fighting style?
Yeah, essentially their bite power and effectiveness in a match. And the key thing was consistency. They consistently throw these traits into their offspring.
That consistency is everything for a bloodline, I imagine.
Absolutely. But predictability is foundational.
Okay, so power and mouth were the big things. Were there any, downsides or areas maybe needing refinement?
Well, the articles do mention that Eli dogs could sometimes be barnstorming.
Barnstorming, what does that mean exactly?
It suggests they might charge in very aggressively, maybe without much strategy or pacing. Just all out, right from the start.
Okay, I can see how that might lead to problems.
Yeah, it could sometimes lead to short-windedness. Basically, they might tire themselves out too quickly.
Right, so how did breeders address that? Did they try to crossbreed to fix it?
They did.
Yeah.
And this is where one of the best crosses for the Eli line comes in, according to these sources. Specifically crossing with the Rom dog, Snooty.
Snooty, okay. What did Snooty bring to the table?
Snooty was known for being extremely intelligent. He added traits described as pit intelligence and style.
So intelligence and style, the idea was to balance out that raw power.
Exactly that. The cross aimed to fix that short-windedness issue by adding some, ring smarts and better pacing.
Yeah.
That's the style part.
But without losing the good stuff, the power in mouth.
That was the goal, yeah. To enhance the line, smooth out the rough edges, without sacrificing those core Eli traits they valued so highly. A classic outcross strategy, really.
Makes sense. And was there a standout example of this Snooty Eli cross working well?
Oh, yes. The most famous result mentioned is Champion Chinaman Rom, a 4XW.
Wow. The article says he had it all.
That's the quote. He's credited with producing a superior line of dogs. And the description of the Chinaman dogs really nails what they achieved with that cross. They consistently produced intelligent, powerful game dogs with a lot of mouth.
So the intelligence from Snooty plus the power, gameness, and mouth from Eli.
Pretty much, yeah. The sources call them literally a complete package and having true fast lane quality.
Fast lane quality sounds like top-tier performers.
Absolutely. High-level competition dogs. And importantly, their impact is still felt significantly in today's sporting era. That cross really clicked.
Wow. Okay, so when you look at Eli Jr., Bullyson, Brendy, and then these crosses like Chinaman, the overall impact of this Eli line just seems massive.
It's staggering, really. The sources are upfront about it, saying it's impossible to list all the quality dogs that trace back to those three directly or indirectly.
So we're not just talking a dozen famous dogs. It's way more pervasive.
Way more. The article says literally hundreds of famous dogs who owe their success to the Eli line and its originator Floyd B. Hundreds. It goes on to say it would take an archive of novels to list the accomplishments of them all.
An archive of novels. Okay, that paints a picture.
Yeah, so this deep dive and the articles we're looking at, they really do just scratch the surface, as the source itself admits. Similar to maybe looking at the Red Boy line, another huge one.
That really puts the scale into perspective. And it wasn't just the Eli line itself, right? It also helped other breeding programs. There's an example given, the Boyles line.
Yes, exactly. The sources highlight that Ronald Boyle's line benefited extensively from bringing in Eli blood.
Okay, how did that happen? What was the Boyles line originally?
It started, apparently, from a Patrick bred bitch named Boyle's Dirty Mary Rom.
Dirty Mary Rom, okay. And the Eli connection.
It came through a cross with what's described as some very rough Eli blood via a dog named Holland's Grand Champion Cherokee Chief Rom.
Cherokee Chief. And his background was Eli.
Yeah, Chief's lineage went back to Everett's Buck and Goodman's Mizzou, which connects back to the core Eli dogs.
Got it. And there's another sad note mentioned about Buck, isn't there?
There is, unfortunately. The sources mentioned Buck died in a kennel accident on Irish Jerry's yard. And tragically, Irish Jerry's own Grand Champion We Hunt dog died in the same incident. Both dogs were lost.
Oh, man. Another reminder of the risks involved, losing two grand champions like that.
Yeah, a real setback losing valuable genetics. But, despite that loss in Cherokee Chief's ancestry, the article emphasizes that the Boyles line has since taken off in a big way and is very well respected.
So that Eli blood, even with those challenges, really helped launch that Boyles line successfully.
It seems so. It shows how incorporating these powerful foundational lines, even indirectly sometimes, could really ignite a whole new successful program.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, this deep dive into the Boudreaux's Eli bloodline, what are the main takeaways?
Well, we've seen a lineage that starts with Floyd B and Eli, gets catapulted by that crucial Spook breeding. Then you have the massive impact of Eli Jr., Bullyson, and Brendy, known for that power in mouth.
Right, those core traits.
Yeah, passed down consistently. Then we saw how smart crosses, like with Snooty, could refine the line, adding intelligence and style, fixing weaknesses like the barnstorming.
Leading to dogs like Chinaman, the complete package.
Exactly. And finally, realizing just how extensive this influence is, hundreds of dogs, benefiting other lines like Boyle's. It's a deep, deep legacy.
It really is remarkable just seeing how a few key dogs and specific breedings can echo down through so many generations, shaping this whole community. The interconnectedness is fascinating.
It really is. And it leaves you with something to think about, As you reflect on this, consider how the impact of just a few key ancestors carrying specific traits continues to shape things across generations. We see it here in animal breeding, obviously, but maybe you can see parallels in other complex systems too, like how technologies develop, or maybe even how cultural ideas spread and evolve, something to mull over.